recording. And welcome everyone. I'm Alfred Lambermont Weber, and I am here with Professor Jim McCarty, a former professor in Louisville, Kentucky.
I'm trying to watch this thing on Facebook Live, but I can't get it. Don't you? It's a link on this guy's.
Yeah, could you please? Yeah, ma'am. I'm going to have to. Yeah, and I'm here with former Professor Jim McCarty, and Win Free in a webinar that has caused a huge uproar on Facebook. I was just kind of advertising it and went to advertise it on the 10 groups promoting President Donald Trump that I belong to, because I'm a journalist and a news person, and I just get the word out. And as soon as I did that, it said I'm blocked from posting in a group that I don't administer until March 17th. Today's March 10th, for a week. So the title of this is What Happens When Your Soul Gets Caught in a Nuclear Blast, with Professor Jim McCarty and Win Free. Now, Win is attempting to establish a connection to the webinar because we had Win connected, but as the time approached, his connection was interfered with. So Professor Jim McCarty and I will continue this. And this is important because what is the background here? The background here is that last night, on March 9th, US President Donald J. Trump abruptly broke off his personally announced May 2018 meeting with nuclear power North Korean leader Kim, even as Kim had announced North Korea's precondition that North Korea would cease all nuclear bomb testing and stop its nuclear weapons program. Kim's positive precondition of ceasing North Korea's nuclear weapons program broke the USA-North Korea stalemate. Trump abruptly broke off talks because the USA war machine uses North Korea as a bargaining chip for a plausible excuse to keep 17 military bases in Japan, some of them nuclear. Peace with North Korea means the collapse of the USA military machine, which it's made its living. I mean, a planet cannot, and countries cannot make their living making war, as the USA has done since 1871, when it made itself the war partner of the Vatican and the City of London. The Vatican, the City of London, the bankers, the USA, the war partner. And planet Maldek is now the asteroid belt. Where the asteroid belt is, we used to have a, excuse me, some of the listeners in, could you please mute your phones? And
Alfred?
yeah,
Can you hear me?
yes, I can now. So,
Okay, I'm on a phone now.
okay,
For some
good.
reason, just letting you know. Let me put on my headset, my phone headset.
Okay,
and I'll
good.
be here.
Okay, so I now am going to welcome Win Free, who has now joined us. There is a massive amount of interference, so the call-in users are now being featured on our video rather than the video panelists, which is really weird. And for the sake of the video of this, I might just have to eject all of the callers. I'm sorry, you can go to Facebook. And this has just become a technological feast for the Matrix AI. So we can't get out the information of how Maldek and Mars were destroyed by nuclear wars, and we don't want that to happen, especially if Kim and Trump were the same souls that destroyed Mars. And, you know, and sorry that I'm asking these callers, but they are being put right in the middle of the screen here. And okay. So, Win, do you want to come in? And here is Win, who has written a book on the reincarnation of Edgar Casey. And welcome, Win. Hello? Win, can you hear me? I guess not. So let me go back to the original plan. Jim, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, good, good. So let me ask you, you were a university professor in Louisville, Kentucky, and put together a channeling group as kind of a research project. You were channeling discarnate souls, extraterrestrials, and angelic sources. Don Elkins would ask questions, Carla Ruckert was the channel, and you were the scribe. So could you kind of take it from there and bring us through that whole scenario up to the present day and summarize for us what this means, and for the question, what happens to our souls during a nuclear attack as part of a nuclear war? Thank you. And I apologize for all of this interference. This is obviously because of this question, which somehow through synchronicity, our webinar, which was planned a month ago, landed in the middle of and is kind of busting the Kim Trump maybe reincarnate show. And let's not hope that they were the two souls that helped blow up Tiamat, Maldek, and Mars in their nuclear wars. Jim, Professor Jim McCarty, over to you, sir.
Well, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
And please
First of all,
take as long as you want. We have as much time. We have 12 hours here. That can be extended to 24 hours. So take as much time as you need. Thank you.
Excuse me just one moment. Alfred,
Yeah.
can you hear me? I am on a phone line, my
Yeah.
voice. And you hung up on me 2 times.
Yeah,
Okay?
because
you disconnected me.
I didn't know.
I know why. I'm just alerting you.
What is your
Number
phone number?
My number is 19. My meeting ID number
No,
is
no.
19.
What is your physical phone number?
626-644.
Is that your
But
phone number?
it might be unlisted. Okay.
Yeah. Because
I mean, it's blocked.
okay. Yeah. Are you on the phone now?
I'm on the phone now. Yeah.
Okay.
For whatever reason.
Okay. Just listen to this. It's that when you distributed the invitation to a bunch of people to listen in as participants rather than to go to Facebook, we have a lot of interference on this webinar. And the people who you distributed it to are now calling in, and they are interfering with the video broadcast. So as quickly as they call in, I'm having to knock them off the webinar and asking them to go to my Facebook page, which is Alfred Lambermont Weber at Facebook, because they are blocking the video feed and they keep on calling back in. They seem not to.
Is it possible to mute them?
It has nothing to do with sound. It has to do with the video.
Or you can't? Can't you? Let me see here. You can't take somebody and.
Okay, look.
I see.
Let's get back to Jim McCarthy talking. Okay.
All right.
Okay, and let me host the show. Okay. Let's let Jim say what he's going to say, and then we'll bring you in. Okay. And I've got your number now. It's 626-644.
That's right.
Okay. And I will not knock that off the air, but I have to knock the other ones off the air because they're interfering with the video, because this webinar is under cyber attack by the US Army. Okay? Okay. Because we're touching on issues of nuclear war, because the US Army doesn't want to lose its 17 bases in Japan, which the only excuse why they can do it 65 years after the Second World War is by maintaining the threat of North Korea. And North Korea offered to negotiate with Donald Trump, saying, yeah, we want to give up our nuclear weapons program. And Trump, canceled because the Pentagon leaned on him and he, stepped back. And no Americans want to tell the truth, that they've earned their living from war and they don't want to give it up. Okay, so let's get back to Jim McCarthy, Professor Jim McCarthy, who's with us, who will tell us this, okay? Who's the scribe of this meeting, who's a professor, and who will bring us through this. Jim, could you come back and bring us up to date on the origins and history of this epic series of channelings during the period 81 to 83, and how this bears on the question of what happens to your soul in a nuclear war? Thank you.
Well, thank you. I need to make one correction to begin with.
Sure.
Don Elkins was the actual professor,
Oh,
and he had become a professor of physics at the University of Louisville in order to try to answer some of the big questions in life that were brought home to him when the fellow who was giving him flight instructions in 1948 was chasing a UFO here in the Kentucky area and crashed while chasing it. This was the fellow who had given him flight instructions. So this got him asking questions like, what is the purpose of life? How big is the universe? How does it work? Who made it? So he took all these courses in high school and college, physics, biology, chemistry, and so forth, to try to find answers to these questions. But after getting degrees in mechanical engineering and physics, he decided that he was not going to find the answers to these questions in science. So he started looking into the area of the paranormal phenomena, and he began investigating regression of hypnosis and regressed over 200 people to prove to himself that reincarnation was the way we progress in our lives. And in 1961, he came into possession of information from a Detroit channeling group. And it told you how that you could set up your own meditation group and became able to receive information from extraterrestrial entities, supposedly. So he invited 12 of his students from this introduction to physics class to meditate twice a week. One of the students asked if he could bring his girlfriend. Her name was Carla L. Ruckert. She eventually became the channel for the Raw Contact, and this is how Don and Carla met in 1961. It took a few months, but everybody in the group learned how to channel except for Carla. She liked the channeling meditation. She liked the messages, but she just wasn't interested in learning how to channel then. So after about 4 or 5 years, Don and Carla decided to get together and to form a group, which they named L&L Research. This was 1968. So they decided to name their group L&L Research because the extraterrestrial entities that contacted their group frequently spoke of the one infinite creator creating the universe out of love and light. So they changed their name to L&L Research. And after another couple of years, everybody that was in the original group had left town. They'd gotten married or gotten jobs or just moved out of town. So Don asked Carla if she'd be willing to learn how to channel. She said, okay. So Don actually taught her to channel by channeling Haton, which was the entity's name that was the extraterrestrial entity. So Haton channeled the message and the instructions to Carla through Don. And the first message Carla ever channeled was, I am Haton. I'm having difficulty with this instrument. So it was a modest beginning, but she did have a talent that later became obvious. I moved to Kentucky about the same time she learned to channel, which was 1974. I was living in the woods of central Kentucky, part of the Back to the Land movement, living off the grid for about 6 years. And in May 30th, 1979, I listened to a radio interview on WKQQ radio in Lexington, Kentucky. They were interviewing Don Elkins and Carla Ruckert about UFOs. And they were not talking about the physical nature of the UFOs, what the occupants looked like or where they're from. They were talking about the philosophy of the occupants, that the one infinite creator had indeed made the one infinite creation out of itself, that we are all one. That interested me very much. So it took me about 6 or 8 months to meet Don and Carla. In our group, there was the Back to the Land folks had co-ops that they'd order food from that they couldn't grow in their own gardens. So it was at one of these meetings I was talking to a couple from the other side of the same county that I lived in, and they said they knew Don and Carla. So I started going to Don and Carla's meditations. I attended for about a year, and after that year, about 1980, I helped them move to a new location in Louisville. And we got along really well. We discovered that we had a harmony between us that was unmistakable. So they invited me to join them in their work. So on December 23rd, 1980, I joined them. And 3 weeks later, on January 15th, 1981, the Raw Contact started. I was not there for the first Raw Contact. I was out shopping for groceries. But Don and Carla were teaching a student from the Sunday night meditation group how to channel. And up to this point, all of Carla's channelings had been conscious channeling only. And in conscious channeling, she was aware that she was sitting in a chair and speaking words that she saw in her mind. And if she had ever wanted to, she could have stopped the process at any time. But when the Raw Contact occurred, she somehow went into trance and left her body. We never knew how she left her body. She was never trained for it. She had never thought about how to do it. To her, it just felt like going to sleep. So when she began channeling Ra, she left her body, and Ra was not in her body like Seth was in Jane Roberts's body. Ra would use her body from the inner planes of the earth to answer Don's questions. So we were able to have 106 sessions with Ra, and Don had 25 years of experience investigating UFOs, abductions and contactees, investigating psychic surgery, investigating the heads on Easter Island, the lines at Nazca, whatever in the psychic field or paranormal that you can think of, he investigated. And the first book basically is a compilation of how to answer those questions he'd had all his life that he couldn't answer before. And in the process of covering the basic information, which was how does planet Earth make the transition into the fourth density of love and light, we got off on other items like Maldek, Atlantis, Mars, Egypt, Lemuria, and so forth. And these were kind of like sidetracks that we used to discover more about the process of the evolution of mind, body, and spirit. So when Don asked if there had ever been any other planets in our solar system that were inhabited, we discovered that there were two that had problems with warfare. Maldek, apparently 700,000 years ago, destroyed itself because of warfare. It was a interplanet, well, it was their various groups on the planet, as we have here on this planet, were having difficulty with each other. And the destruction of Maldek was complete. The planet is now the Asteroid Belt. And after that destruction of Maldek, the 2 billion souls that were on Maldek were tied into a knot or a tangle of fear, as Ra called it. This was such a horrific event that though they were still intact as souls, they were not aware that they were conscious. They were not aware that they were individuals. They were totally blended as a consciousness, and for 100,000 years, no entities could get in contact with them. They could not untangle the knot of fear. Then approximately 100,000 years later, about 600,000 years ago, entities from what Ra called the Confederation of Planets in the service of the one infinite creator were able to make contact with the entities of Maldek. And they were able to bring them to the state of being able to realize that they were individualized entities. And on the subconscious level, they realized the import of what they had done. They decided at that point to try to make karmic restitution, you might say, to be able to, well, balance the effect that they had caused by destroying their planet. So beginning about 46,000 years ago, they began to incarnate on planet Earth, but at that time, there were not enough third density bodies for them to inhabit. So they became what we now know as Bigfoot. They were inhabiting the lower levels of passageways and caves and tunnels within the Earth, and it's still to this point are doing that. There, however, were a number of them who were able to make transition into the third density and begin a process of this karmic restitution, where on the subconscious level or the level of their soul, they know very well what they did, and they wish to change that outcome on planet Earth. However, as they make these pre-incarnative choices, their conscious selves, as you know, are separated from their unconscious by the veil of forgetting. So it isn't certain that they will be able to remember, as it's not certain that any of us will ever remember what exactly we wanted to program before the incarnation. But if we get on a spiritual path and begin seeking the answers to the questions of our lives, we begin to come in contact with this information. So that seems to be what's happening with those of Maldek on Earth now. They are in a situation where subconsciously, at the level of their soul, they know that they want to make restitution. They want to make other choices on Earth at this time. They had one chance in Atlantis and didn't do so well there. So the hope is the third time is a charm, because now we have a situation in our planet that we have the ability, once again, to destroy this planet. We have, in the past, had a nuclear bomb dropped on Japan, to end World War II, Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Those entities, according to Ra, needed to be tended to afterwards because they were not destroyed so much by the radiation, but by the power of the blast. The blast could disarrange their soul, their spirit, so that it would no longer be a part of the one infinite creator. there's a council that rules this particular solar system, the Council of Nine, or the Council of Saturn, located in the rings of Saturn, that gave Ra permission not to stop the events of a nuclear war, but to heal those entities, to attempt to heal the entities that went through the bomb blast. So that at this point, at least in 1981, they were beginning to go through the healing process. And this eventually would heal them so that they could continue on in their progression towards the fourth density as third density entities. So that's basically where we got the information about Maldek and Mars. Mars, for instance, 75,000 years ago, had warfare amongst its own members and made the atmosphere on the planet inhospitable. So they needed to be transferred to planet Earth. And they began their experience here 75,000 years ago, but it was the middle of their own third density on Mars where they had been started there. So they kind of had a head start, although they had a problem with being on Mars and having difficulty with learning how to live together. And that, again, is a situation that's being repeated here on Earth. They are the same as the Maldek entities. At the soul level, they know what they need to do to make more positive choices. The question is, can they find the answers in their conscious incarnations now on Earth?
Right. Now, do you have any sense, or because, I mean, for me, the synchronicity that the night before this webinar, we had the last minute suspension of talks by Trump. You know, you had Kim and Trump. Do you have any sense that at the soul level, Kim and Trump may be incarnates who did it once in Maldek, did it once in Mars, and now here at Earth for a trifecta, or to try and do it, or something like that?
Personally, I think there's a good chance that this is what is happening. Ra mentioned that there were no mistakes, that everything that occurs in the experience of our lives is something that has been planned aforetimes. That if we keep our minds and our hearts open to what's going on, that we can tune in to, you might call it the flow of the universe, the flow of our pre-incarnative choices. And that it doesn't seem like, you know, this could be a total coincidence. It seems to me like it's a chance to plant a seed towards peace and love and understanding that could be watered by more attention, by people realizing that there is a significant penalty that is paid when you do not listen to the rhythms of your heart, listen to the knowledge of your experience, when you know that there are people that need your help and assistance, and instead try to manipulate them for your own purposes. We need another way. We need to choose to be different types of people. We need to make an alteration in our perception of each other, that we are all one. We are not separate. We don't have to fight each other for anything. There's plenty on the planet for everyone, but there are those souls who wish to take more than is their share. And we need to learn how to give. I think the way basically is to learn how to open our hearts in love and spread that around, because we are one entity. We are the one creator in disguise billions of times. And if we speak to that creator in every other soul, eventually the creator will awaken and respond.
Right.
I told you I'm an optimist.
Yeah. Now, when are you hearing this?
I'm hearing.
Okay. Now, Jim has come in and kind of given us a crystal chip. He has chipped and summarized in a crystal fashion and put it right there on the table of this webinar in a huge crystal. Exactly what we're looking at right now and the issues, okay? From going back to the origins of Ra, going back to Maldek, going back to Mars, going back to the possibility that with Kim and Trump, we're looking at the same souls that are just cycling through the Maldek catastrophe, planetary destruction. This now the asteroid belt. Then they came to Mars. Mars is now an obloid pumpkin planet, with barren surface with reptiles, dinosaurs on the thing, and the humans living underground. And now we're down here at Earth, and it's dicey. And synchronistically, you saw it. I mean, I called you this morning. We spoke at 9 a.m. this morning, and you said, what? And I said last night that Trump abruptly canceled the May 2018 meeting with Kim, and Kim has said, yes, here, I met the preconditions. I'm ready to give up the nuclear program. And Trump walked away from it because the Pentagon leaned it, and then he said, we need Kim because we need our 17 bases in Japan, and that's our only excuse because we don't have another way to make a living than war. So here we are. We blew up a planet in Maldek. We blew up another planet in Mars. We got half the universe parked around us in Earth. What's going to happen? You have a whole slideshow presentation of slides and audios. So I can help you walk the audience through that so they see that there's some substance to this crystal that Jim McCarty has so elegantly brought us. So tell me how you want to go.
Well, the idea that there are group souls in other dimensions that can help us, that can interface with our realm, is an incredible idea. And for most people, the first time they hear that, they would say, "Can you hear me okay?"
Yeah, you're coming across loud and clear.
Okay. So the key element is trust. How do you know there's group souls in other dimensions that are dedicated to the evolution of humankind, that are giving us the right information? Because I have watched how quickly people dismiss this reality. In fact, it's been part of my mission for quite some time now to make this reality credible, real, and experiential. One of the things, I put together all these pictures, that were from the first Ra book. And I was introduced to Ra when I was writing The Reincarnation of Edgar Cayce about David Wilcock. And David Wilcock believed he was channeling an aspect of Ra. And I never heard of Ra before, except it was the sun god in Egypt. And but I read Wilcock's channelings, and I said, how did this wisdom come through this guy? Because it's not in him. As I got to know David. Do you hear that?
Yeah.
I had a funny sound. Okay.
Yeah.
It must be David's high self. I got to know David, and I knew he was not capable of bringing that in. And I studied those channelings from David inside and out. And he was always referencing the raw material, the raw law of one material. And eventually, he actually moved in to Jim and Carla's house. And I ended up becoming, well, it was in that period that I had You see, when you talk about this, it sounds so crazy. I had my new girlfriend suddenly start to channel, and I had no one to talk about it to except Carla. And I would call Carla and I said, "What do you think of this? Let me send this to you." And, you know, I was talking to a source that identified itself as the Council of Elohim. So this is really crazy. I'm writing The Reincarnation of Edgar Casey. I'm talking, I'm talking to David all the time. And in the middle of that, I have a girlfriend that says, "Those guys want to talk to you again." And I didn't dare talk about it, except to Carla, because I just thought no one would believe it, and I sound crazy. But in these conversations, I was asking like a second opinion for the stuff I was reading in the raw material, and I was getting the same answer. And I was talking to another group soul. And in fact, you can see Terry there. She's a person that is a channel for the Elohim group. Well, I don't want to go off base here. I want to go back to the raw material. I'm just telling you some of the ways that it became real to me. For a few years, it was like science fiction. I mean, I'm only scratching the surface here. But I said, this can't be real. I must be missing something. What if they're demonic? Am I being misled? And Carla was probably my saving grace in that period. And let's see, you know, I know you have pictures there, and I thought let's show people some of the pictures of the people that were involved in the raw sessions in the 1980s. This is how they looked then.
Okay.
And you see picture number 9?
Yeah, so let me go to picture number 9, and I'm just going to open it up here first. Just got to open it up, and come on, Mr. Preview. Oh, this is just a little, it just takes a little while to, my system operates a little more slowly when it's got all this juice going through it. So I'm trying to get my preview program open here, and it doesn't seem to want to open. Why is that? Oh boy.
Now I have a thing that says share screen on my control panel.
Yeah, it's well, to you see right now what I'm trying to do is to open my preview program, which I have to do in order to get open the number 9 photo. And we're okay. So now we have that open, and now I'm going to go to share screen, and now I'm going to do this, and now I'm going to do that. Okay, so can you see?
You got it. Good work.
Yeah, I got it. It's just
we see it.
I just want to beg everybody's indulgence that we are operating here. As you know, the giants, Google, YouTube. Google is named after the black goo of the artificial intelligence. It works with CIA and NSA and the shadow government. And so I'm just working off of a laptop that I just reconditioned for a couple of $100 because I couldn't afford another $3,000, MacBook. So we just operate a little slowly here in our citizen broadcasting. So go ahead, Win.
So just to make a comment, Jim was talking about the professor who was very curious about how the world worked and how the universe worked, and who ended up being the beginning of this channeling group, and that's a picture of him. And he is the guy that they started out. Jim could probably make some more personal comments because he was there, but he's the guy that asked those profound questions through the raw material. And Jim, are you there, Jim? I don't see your picture.
Yeah, I don't see my picture, but I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can see your.
Yeah, I hear you.
I can see your picture, Jim. However, if I didn't know it, I would say that Don Elkins looks like you.
Well, interestingly enough, I have a similar role with the Elohim that Don Elkins had with the Ra. I had this thirst for learning how the universe works. I came up with all the questions. People keep saying, "Oh, I have such good questions," and I wasn't intimidated talking to them. I said, "Well, who are you really? How did you create the universe? How does this work? How does that work?" And we've been doing this for years now. Now we do it in front of other people. They listen to my questions, and they like it. They like being asked questions. One of the things is when you get an exalted source that's channeling through somebody, most people kind of want to just give up their power and say, "Well, tell me what I should do," and so they give these long dialogues, but they don't like doing that as well as questions and answers, because questions and answers preserves free will more. And so maybe I probably have. What do you think, Jim? Do I have the same intensity as Don Elkins?
You're right up there, Win.
I'm right up there. Okay. All right. But in any case, I think he's better looking than me. But otherwise, it's nice to be compared with him because I have a great deal of respect for him and his vision. Jim, what do you want to say about Don Elkins?
Well, his questions always amazed me. The raw contact was unusual in that the way the words were transmitted through Carla, since she wasn't there, each syllable was accentuated like this. And it went so slowly, I personally couldn't figure out where one sentence ended and another started, let alone exactly what Ross said. But Don could listen to that type of a dialogue or that type of a monologue and figure out what was said and then the question to follow up with. And that always just amazed me. So yeah, that would be what I would comment on about the raw contact. As long as you figured out what was being said, then he could come up with the question.
Jim, I can't remember if you made this point, and I wanted to make it about the dispensation of Ra. And Ra, they identified themselves in this way. They said they were a group soul that was made up of souls, individual souls like yours and mine, that evolved from third density, like we're doing right now, and graduated third density, or got off the wheel of reincarnation, and then they grouped together on the other side, millions of them, and they said, we're going to help those poor suckers that are still stuck in third density. And they're in another timeline. And so they can exist for millions of years and keep observing us through that period. And they do. And, you know, it was like, I was thinking, how do you actually talk to a group soul? You know, we're used to talking to one person and, you know, and having an interchange. And you're not necessarily talking to the whole group, because the group has councils and sub-councils, and they delegate things. They're a working community in another dimension. But they usually when they're communicating into this dimension, there's a team that's putting together the words. So you have to imagine they're in another timeline. And I'm just imagining this. There's a team, and they could be thinking, well, should we tell it this way? No, maybe we should say it that way. And they have all this, on their timeline, they have time to group the concepts together, and then it comes out as words through Carla or through the channel. Now, there are not many people who channel group souls, and that in order to channel a group soul, I'm sure there's not one answer to this, but my observation is that when there's a group energy in this realm, then the group energy is big enough to hold the vibration of bringing the group soul contact through. With the Carla Rucker situation, they told Carla specifically it took all three people to hold the energy for the Ra group to come in. It was Don Elkins, Jim McCarty, and Carla. And that when it's very interesting because, you know, I studied this and I saw that you've got a soul group at a very high dimension, and we're at a very low dimension in this realm. Somehow there had to be a bridge from the high dimension downwards so it could come into this realm. And Don Elkins was an important part of that bridge because he was earthy. And when he died, they lost the Ra contact. And then what they did is they built a bridge on the other side with Ra. But it was no longer just Ra. It was Ra at the top, and then the next thing down on the bridge was, I think, Latwe. Is that right, Jim? Latwe?
Latwi.
And Lati. And the next one down was Hatan, who they had already spoken to. And I think Hatan was an individual high being. And so they could bridge the energy from the Ra group down through this bridge, and they made a new name for it. It was Klo. And anyone who studied the Ra material can see the difference in the language and the presentation of the Klo group. Plus, I believe when Carla was channeling Klo, she was conscious. Is that correct, Jim?
Right.
She didn't have to go into an unconscious trance state. And so group energy is very important in bringing in these high contacts. And let's look at another picture. That's Don Elkins there. Now, let's see here. there's a picture of a young Carla, and Carla was beautiful when she was young. Let me see if I can figure out which picture it was. Hang on, hang on. No, something doesn't work, we're going to blame the Army, so don't worry about it, okay? Okay, a picture of Carla
Okay,
when she was young.
The number. Oh my
I'm
God.
just looking here. Okay, number 5.
Okay, now I'm getting that my preview is not responding, so we're getting, okay, so that one.
Alfred, I thought you knew what you were doing. What's going on here?
Oh, I know what I'm doing. And
I'm kidding. I
Okay.
couldn't even get my audio to work.
Okay, so let's go to Carla here. And let's get let me try a new way to do this. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to my applications. And I know what I'm going to do next time. Next time when you send me all of these photographs, I'm going to ask you beforehand, make a PowerPoint out of all of these, and then it'll work very well. You have.
Could I put them in a PDF? Could I put them in a PDF?
No, you had to put them in a PowerPoint. So let me just go. So just one second. Yeah, this is what we did is, this is very inefficient use of everyone's energy. Hold on.
Well, let me find something to talk about.
Yeah.
While you're figuring it out.
Why don't you go? No. Look, Win. The only thing that I can do now, because this thing is misbehaving, is while you're talking, is that I can go ahead and create a PowerPoint out of the 12 items that you sent me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's the best thing for me to do now.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you go and start talking about the history of this, and just give me 10 minutes to create a PowerPoint.
Okay.
And then we'll be back. So over to you.
Tell me something. Do you have the audios handy?
The same thing is going to happen.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. There is too much memory on the desktop taken up by these files.
I see.
Okay, so I'm gonna. Okay, so take it over, please. Over to you, and I'm going.
Okay, I'm going to talk about stuff and ask questions to Jim. You know, we've lost Jim's picture.
That's not a big loss.
Now we've lost Alfred's audio. Can you hear me? Jim, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Win.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I am here. I'm putting myself on mute because I'm doing something.
Okay.
But Win, just follow through and
talk.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, you know, I want this. I would like, and I know Alfred would, and Jim would like. This is an amazing concept that there's actually a group soul in another dimension that's hanging in here with humanity. And they say they graduated from the planet Venus. They didn't have incarnations on Earth. They had incarnations on the planet Venus. And 20% of them graduated and created joined together on the other side as a group soul. And it's kind of spiritual Darwinism that they said when they were on Venus, they had a group soul that was before them that helped them graduate. And so what happens is there's these stepping stones of dimensions through the universe that we are all on a treadmill, an evolutionary path. And you can't speed it up. You can't say, I want to get to the top. You can't, because you feel like if you didn't experience everything on the realm you're on, you would be missing something, you know? So it's not like a reward, like, good boy, you're now enlightened. Good boy, you've now given up all your attachment. No, it has to come through experience and one step at a time. Except one of the pitfalls of this realm, and this pitfall doesn't exist in the higher realms, is physical possessions. Because of physical possessions, people lost their connection to the law of one. In the higher realms, you can have separate beings, you can have separate councils, they can have teamwork, but they're all operating knowing that they're part of each other. The Ra group knows, all their millions of people know they're part of each other. Now, in a sense, doing a call like this right now is a demonstration on the human side of being part of each other. In other words, everybody's coming together to do something for the highest good of this planet. No one is here to say, look at me, recognize me. You know, that's one of the things that happens everywhere in this realm. People like to be looked at, they like to be recognized. So this is like the beginning of a group soul contact right now, because our high selves are cooperating. Jim and I are cooperating. You know, I have a planetary healing call every day, which I'm going to talk about more shortly. And Jim comes in 2 days a week and reads excerpts from the raw material. I read excerpts from the Elohim material. I don't charge for it. I don't do this for recognition. Jim has, at our research, Jim has books that are published on Amazon, the raw material books. And every one of his books on Amazon is available for free download on his website in a PDF version. So I'm making a point here that we're not doing this for the normal worldly reasons of the reasons people do things in this realm. How to get ahead, how to be famous, how to get applause, how to get more sex, how to get more money, and it's like, I'm not judging anyone who is doing that, but eventually you'll get tired of it. Eventually everything gets boring. It might take 1,000 years or 1,000 lifetimes, but you get to the point where I don't want to do that anymore, and that's part of a next stage of evolution for someone when they start saying, all these things I've been doing are boring. And then eventually, your soul is bonded to your body. But eventually, the reason you reincarnate is because you still have things you wanted to experience in this realm, are incompleted in this realm. And it's not a punishment. it creates a drawing into this realm when you're on the other side. And eventually, you lose the need to come back and have any more experience. You may come back, people graduate this realm, and they still come back because they want to be of service down here. In fact, if nobody came back to be of service from the higher realms, this realm would guaranteed fall into the clutches of the negative. And from the group soul points of view, they can do interventions. They do interventions. They do things that would be miracles in this realm. And from their point of view, it's just normal, matter of fact. Because in the higher realms, things are not rigid. And then when you adjust something in the higher realms, it downloads into this realm. Doesn't have to. There has to be a path. Just like the Ra group needed a path. There needs to be a path down. But if there's a path down, something can happen in this realm that is a miracle. And I think one of the greatest hopes for this planet is creating the assistance of these group souls from the higher realms and more miracles. For example, I asked my source, I said, could you guys disable a nuclear weapon? And they said they could if enough people asked. You see, they honor free will. They're not sitting there looking and saying, let's be nice to this person, let's be nice to that person. They need a connection. It's when they have a connection, now they know not only are they doing something, but they're helping the evolution of the people they have connections with. And if there's no connection, nothing happens. Because of the fact that people have to ask for their help, sometimes they were interpreted as God, because asking for help for a higher source looks like prayer. But my sources and the Ra group never asked to be worshipped or never asked to be deferred to. From their perspective, as they have said it, each of us is an evolving soul in a body, and that they can help us evolve faster. They can help us move through our stuff faster. And the raw material is brilliant in the way that it helps you do that. For one thing, the raw material set up this idea that there are wanderers. And I never heard that term in this context before. But a wanderer was a soul that came from a higher dimension that took a body in this realm to be of service. And that, believe it or not, there's tens of millions of wanderers. Tens of millions. And another thing the Ra group said is once they take the body and come into this realm, they are bound by the veil of forgetfulness. They don't know they're a wanderer. They grow up in a family. They start to adopt the attitudes of the family, the hang-ups of the family. They grow up in a society. They grow up in a religion, and they're a wanderer. And people, some of you that are listening right now, fit that dispensation. It's like people that are attracted to what Alfred puts in the world. are very likely wanderers, many of them. And when a wanderer discovers these group souls, and when I say group souls, I'm saying there's the Ra group and there's the Elohim group. Actually, the Elohim group, they call their members to come into this realm starseeds. And they're different. I learned to recognize them. I can recognize an Elohim soul and a Ra soul. And but when a person is like this, and there's millions of them out there, discover this material, it's like a homecoming. It's like, oh my God, I've been looking for this all my life. This explains it. And they are now seeds that are suddenly sprouting, because the people that come from these higher realms and these soul groups in this realm, once they make the energetic connection with the soul group, they can bring the energies of the soul group into this realm, and they learn how to do it. And the soul groups need anchors in this realm to do their magic, their highest purpose. And I'm just saying this because people hear this material and they say, some of you are thinking, well, that explains it. That explains it. That explains why I'm willing to sacrifice my life and dedicate myself for the benefit of humanity. I'm a wanderer. I came here to do that. And it's a concept that is very not well known in this realm. And yet, the waking up wanderers is one of the highest potentials for changing this planet of anything there is, okay? Because the wanderers have the energetic force to make things happen, but they have to be woken up. Jim, anything you want to say on all that?
Well, there's a wide variety there. I guess I would talk a little bit about wanderers. Back in 1981, Ross said there were about 65 million. And there was also another type of entity that's been incarnating here since then, and that's the entity that has the third and fourth density body, the yellow and the green ray being the heart, open. These entities have already graduated from other third density planets like Earth, and they've come to Earth early to help with the graduation here. It's considered a great honor and privilege to come early because there is a lot of chaos, anger, separation, a lot of places where these entities can be of service. And what they're doing is bringing with them more memories than the wanderer has, because they do have their fourth density body, their heart chakra open, and they're able to do more what you would call paranormal things. Back in the 80s and 90s, they were written about as the indigo children or the crystal children. They were considered to be systems busters. They found new ways to do things. They get involved in the society on all levels, and they find ways to make improvements so that more people can benefit from whatever services is being offered. So they said back in 1981, there were 35,000 of these entities in incarnation then. We recently had a channeling meditation where that number was increased to 300 million, and that there are approximately 4 or so 100 million wanderers as well. So there's somewhere short of 1 billion entities on this planet that are from other densities, other, as you would say, realms. And they're here to help planet Earth make its transition into the fourth density. And they're here because many, many people on Earth have been on other third density planets and have failed to make the transition there because they were not able to open their heart enough to share with others. They were more likely to reserve for themselves rather than give to others. So planet Earth has many people that have been on other third density planets and have failed to make the transition there and have come to Earth to try again. And these wanderers and these entities with doubly activated bodies are here to help in that whole process. So you see people around that, well, the children, for example, back in the early 80s, were able to do the what was called the Geller effect. They were able to bend metal mentally by asking it. There was a John Whitford, it was an author back in the early 80s from England, who did studies on these children, and he would fasten metal strips inside of glass tubing and make it impossible to touch. And the children would ask the tubing to either break or bend, and it would. So these are the children that have grown up now and are adults and are making a big change. You see in all different facets of the culture, if you look carefully and see that there are people who are willing to cooperate and to consider new concepts of community, of living concepts, living together in community, of working together. It's rather inspiring, and it gives us all hope that this planet can indeed make that transition. That maybe even, as Ross said, though there are so many different problems on this planet that give us reasons to feel distress or distraught, that are still one small container in the store of peace, love, light, and joy. And could your planet polarize in harmony with one fine, strong moment of inspiration? Yes, my friends, it is not probable, but it is ever possible. That was the wild card possibility that Ra mentioned, that it could happen at any time given the right stimulus. What that stimulus would be, I don't know, but I'm ever hopeful that it can come to be. Back to you.
You know what? It's like finding the right domino. Okay. There's people out there, there's circumstances out there that if they were touched, they have influence with other people. And it starts the right domino, which has to do with the right synchronicity of people meeting. And I spend time talking to people as much as I can do. I would do it more because I understand this domino effect, that you never know what person is going to be the key to the lock that can reach millions of people. You never know. And you have to keep talking about it. And our sources have said, I want to make another important principle here. Okay, we are all energies in a body. Our bodies are fixed, they're stuck, they're physicalized, but our energies, our souls, are mutable. Our energies can move around. They can actually move into other areas. It's like remote viewing, okay? Well, people that talk about manifestation talk about the power of intention. Intention is something which moves someone into higher dimensions if it's sufficiently aimed and directed. It's kind of like the mother who lifts a car up off of her son and suddenly has superhuman strength, is demonstrating the power of intention. And there's a correlation between intention and prayer. But I like to use the word intention because prayer so quickly identifies one with religion. But when two people have the same intention, the power doesn't just double. It goes up exponentially. When 3 people have the same intention, it keeps going up. When a small group focuses on the same intention, it becomes very powerful. I don't know if you're familiar of the Maharishi used to do these group meditations in a city. You know about that, Alfred? Are you still working on the PowerPoint?
Yeah, I'm listening. I'm multitasking.
I won't draw you. I won't draw you. I won't draw you for this.
We'll be ready shortly. But yeah,
Okay.
I'm listening, and go ahead.
The Maharishi used to have meditations in the city, and they would do studies and find out when they did their meditation in the city, the crime would go down. They changed the vibration in the city to cause the crime to get lower. And I believe you can find these studies on the internet showing the power of group energy. And it's something that we all have access to, but we don't usually play it. Well, we do something every day where we create a group intention for healing the planet. And it's just a small group of people, not enough people. I'm telling you this because this is one of the most actionable things that you can do that actually can make a difference. Because it's very hard when you look at all these negative things that are going on to feel powerful. It's very easy to feel impotent, and they have it under control. But we create a group intention, and here's where what we're doing is very special. We have gotten into an energetic rapport with our group soul friends. And we can create an intention with our group, and they can come in and be part of the group. They can blend with us. So we make an intention, and then suddenly we have, you have to experience this because you can't see it. We have all these external positive forces adding to our energy. And, you know, they constantly say in their verbal interactions with us that they need to be asked. They honor free will. And so we just blatantly ask them on this call. And people can feel energy. They come into people's crown chakras in the top of their head. They lift the energy of people. I get emails from people. They come into the call depressed. They come into the call and they shifted. Let me see. I just got an email.
Yeah.
A couple days ago.
Win, hi. The PowerPoint is now ready. So let me know, and we can go to share screen so we can start going through that, and you can walk us through the PowerPoint.
Thank you, Alfred. Okay, let me just finish this one point here, okay? And now I'm looking for this email I got yesterday from a lady who said she's been coming to our calls for a few months, and it's keeping her out of the loop of how crazy the world is. It's like, it's amazing to watch this. People get on the call and they say, "Hi, this is Joan," and suddenly all these people are saying, "Hi, Joan," and we've actually learned to feel our soul signatures on the call. And even though we've never seen each other maybe never even had a personal conversation. But people are coming on the call and they're having this loving energy with each other. So Alfred does have the link. It's called Whole Planet Healing. And I just wanted, if anything that we've said resonates, I wanted to encourage you to get on that call. And we start out with reading an excerpt from either my sessions or Jim's sessions from the Ra group or the Elohim group. Jim is there 2 days a week, and we've been doing it for a year, and we actually have seen some miracles happen as a result of that call. So you have to watch it and keep your finger on it to see it. So, okay, let's go through some of these pictures here.
Okay.
They're very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. And, you know, we had Don Elkins.
Yeah, we're only seeing the top of your forehead.
Oh, yeah. I'm getting lazy, huh? Hang on. Let me see.
Okay.
There we go.
You go. Okay. Now we're going to go to share screen. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to your thing you sent me. Okay, now, I wanted you to go to picture 5, okay?
Okay, now just hold on. It will be much better, okay? So I realize that you have a certain order. However, the power...
You want me to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Hold on, Win. Just hold on. Just hold on and begin to perceive. Okay, because we have an audience here and we're trying to bring the audience along. Okay? Now, can you see the screen?
I'm looking at your email with all the pictures, okay?
Can you see the screen? Can you see the PowerPoint? Can you see the share screen?
Yes.
What does it say?
When your soul gets caught in a nuclear blast.
Webinar. What happens when your soul gets caught in a nuclear blast with Jim McCartney and Winfrey? This is the title of a PowerPoint, okay? So what we've done is all the photographs that you send us willy-nilly, we've put them in a nice order. So you can tell a story so people can be brought into a story. Because in a way, up until now, this program, this webinar has been a bit like a nuclear holocaust. It's been a bit disruptive and people can't make sense of it. And before this goes up on the internet, it's going to have to be highly edited with parts hitting the cutting room floor because there's chaos in the air. And all the chaos is going to have to be cut out. So now we're starting a PowerPoint. Are you with me? Okay, so that's the title. So do you want to say something about how it was that you came to this title?
Well, I have been a student of something called the raw material. And the raw material was a series of channeled messages from a source that identified itself as a group soul made up of graduates of this realm. And that they were overseeing, administrating some of the workings in our solar system. And there was a incident that occurred for 3 years, from 1981 to 1983, where this group soul ended up communicating verbal messages and answering questions, The person that was the channel was named Carla Ruckert, and the person asking the questions is Don Elkins. And Don Elkins is a university PhD, and this is some of the most intelligent, advanced material that has ever been channeled. You can look at the raw material up on Amazon and read the incredible reviews from people that were in awe of the material because it's so intelligent. And one of the things the Ra group talked about was the history of our solar system and how there was a planet that ended up destroying itself in a nuclear explosion. And they revealed something in that channeling about nuclear explosions that have never been revealed in this realm. And part of the hope of doing this session right now is to get out the information according to this group's soul as to the horrors of what happens to a person who gets caught in a nuclear explosion. And in very simple language, the soul becomes fragmented. A nuclear explosion is a multi-dimensional explosion. It's not just a 3D explosion. So it explodes your soul as well as your physical body. And according to the Ra group, the souls on Maldek, when it exploded, it became the asteroids. When it exploded, the souls, 2 billion souls, ended up in a tangled mass of fear. That's their verbiage. And they lost their individuation. They were just one conglomerated mass of unconscious energy. And the Ra group and some of their partners took it upon themselves to untangle this mass and to try to put these souls back on an evolutionary path in bodies. And one of the things they did was they brought many of them to Earth, and they occupied some of the available bodies here. Now, they never said this, but I have a feeling they were very possibly occupying the hybrid bodies that the Anunnaki were making. And Jim McCarty brought up that they also became the Bigfoot. And the Maldekian souls were going through the evolutionary process as Bigfoot. And so they were stuck in limbo for quite a few, I think, Jim, were they in limbo for 500,000 years?
100,000, yeah.
100,000 years, right? And do you have any idea if they've all been untangled or are there still some tangled?
Apparently some are still in the second density bodies, although their consciousness is third density. Some have gone on to third density on this planet. Some have gone on to third density on other planets.
Mm-hmm. Now, none of those souls have any memory that they're Maldekian. But sometimes I think I can tell a Maldekian soul. They're scattered, probably. I might be a Maldekian soul. You know, we might be Maldekian souls. I don't know. But it's a process of bringing the parts of your soul back together. You know, there's a healing that some people do called soul retrieval, which may be exactly what we're talking about, where they help a person integrate these parts of their soul that they're still not integrated with. In any case, should we go through these pictures here?
Yes, I will do that. And your immediate observation about the souls still being scattered and working this out raised a warning light for me, because it looks to me like that's the exact behavior patterns of the current president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. He is scattered. I mean, his associates call him scattered. World leaders who've dealt with him call him scattered. His ex-wife calls him scattered. I mean, and the man has his finger on the button. So that, for me, as an attorney, a judge, as a graduate psychotherapist, as an exopolitician, as a mapper of the omniverse, the third cosmological body after the universe, the multiverse, and the omniverse discovered in 2014, is, to me, prima facie evidence that Donald J. Trump may be a soul who is either was part of the Maldekian and perhaps the Mars nuclear wars, and perhaps may have been a prime mover there, and now has found himself once again in a position, and perhaps with Kim as a counterpart, these sort of twin souls who come along and they're planet destroyers or solar system destroyers. And, you know, they're reptilian souls, and they come in and they go boom and they blow it up. And yeah, maybe they're trying, but maybe they have PTSD or the soul equivalent. So I'm trying to draw attention, as you are, using professional words of soul PTSD. And you've got a bunch of Trump loyalists who explode if you say anything about them, about their leader. And, you know, and Trump calling off at the last minute when Kim said, yeah, I want to call this whole thing off, you know, is typical. It's utterly typical. It's scattered. He's a scattered soul who's caught in that pattern with soul PTSD, and he has been part of the blowing up of Maldek and the creation of the asteroids, and possibly the blowing up of Mars, and the making of that into a barren, obloid planet. And we don't want that to happen here on Earth. So I say, more probably than not, there's a probable cause there. And so I wanted to make that point. Now, let's go in here and let's come and you tell us this story. But thank you for bringing up that point. Now, you're going to have to be more mindful, because once again, we can only see the top of your head. Just be a little mindful and keep the thing up there. There you go. Okay, now that's photograph number 1.
Okay, now keep in mind that these sessions were done under the auspices of Don Elkins. And Don asked all kinds of questions about wanting to do it right. And in this case, they told him that it would be best if Carla's head was pointed, now let me think, was it northward?
20
Jim, was
degrees,
it north?
20 degrees east of north.
20 degrees east of north. So Don is trying to adjust her and move the bed, I guess, to get the degrees right. Another interesting thing is they had, I guess you would call it an altar, behind Carla's head with Christian symbols, like a Bible. And I remember when I first saw this in the raw material, I was saying, why are they choosing Christian symbols? And of course, Carla was a Christian. Carla would go to church. And, you know, my own personal conclusion is that the Ra group was connected to Christianity as well, but I didn't know that when I first read that. So that's Don Elkins and Carla. I think just prior, I don't know if it's prior or after, to a channeling session. Anything you want to add to it, Jim?
Yes. There's an open Bible to John chapter 1, verse 1, which says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." That's about as close as you can come in the Christian Bible to finding out the way that the universe was created according to Ra. The reason there's a Bible, an incense, a chalice of water, and a candle there is those are the items that are on the altar every Sunday at her Episcopal church. She was on the altar guild. And these items gave her comfort as she was leaving her body and as she was coming back into her body. And this is right before a session, and Don is measuring the Bible to see if it's in the proper orientation. Ra said that the New Age energies would be coming from 20 degrees east of north. So this was the way that her body was situated to be able to receive the Ra contact most efficiently.
Okay. And we hadn't talked about this, but when did Carla was extremely negative, they use the word negative greetings, psychically attacked, negative greetings. She lost weight when she channeled. She had all kinds of things going wrong, and they were constantly trying to ask questions to help her be in balance. And Jim, do you want to say something about that? How soon did that start in this context?
It starts right away. There's a basic principle, spiritual principle, relating to the free will of every person on earth to be able to choose his or her path. When you have information of a positive nature coming through any channel, there is also the balancing opportunity that must be offered to negatively oriented entities to either be heard or to try to stop your channel. That's just the way it is. So when you have the honor of standing close to the light, you have the responsibility of reflecting that light as clearly as possible. The negative entities cannot place anything in your path that you have not chosen on your own. So if you choose to be disharmonious with another person, that presents an opening to the negative entity to enhance or magnify that disharmony, and it might come out as a mental problem, as a physical problem, that keeps you from being able to function, in our case, in the Ra contact. Every channel that has an opportunity to share this kind of information with people will face this situation. We faced it with a friend of, we called him a friend, or her, of the fifth density, which would use her pre-incarnative choices of arthritis to limit her, so she would focus inwardly in her life and use that arthritis to cause physical pain and difficulty so that it would be hard for her to be a channel. So that's the basic principle that was in a situation for us, and is a situation for anybody that's channeling.
Mm-hmm. So part of the reason for the Bible and the chalice and the candle and everything was to try to make some kind of security and protection, I would imagine. Yes?
That, and to give her comfort as she was exiting and entering her body.
Mm, right. And Alfred, do you want to go to the next picture?
Sure.
Okay. That's just a closer look at what they put on the little table above her head with the Bible and the candle and the incense. And what is that? What is that a glass of on the left? Is that
That's a chalice. Wine? That's a chalice of water. There was water in there, and at the end of the session, Ross suggested that Donna and I put our hands over the water and send love and light into the water, and that would help recharge Carla's body and batteries after having been in the session. Ross said that one session with them, roughly an hour, was the equivalent to a hard day's work for Carla.
And she lost weight, didn't she, during these sessions?
She'd lose 2 to 3 pounds of weight each session, so she had to eat a whole lot extra.
Okay. Let's see the next picture, please. Okay. And there's Carla in action. Well, it looks like she's meditating there. And she's...
Her eyes are still closed.
Yeah. When she channeled, were her eyes closed? Probably so.
Her eyes were closed and covered so that she couldn't see light.
Okay. And let's go to the next picture. Now that is Jim and Carla on their couch, having a convivial good time next to a very old-fashioned television.
The reason we're laughing is that we each have one of the cats in our lap, Gandalf and Fairchild, and the instant before they were sitting peacefully, as soon as a picture was taken, they jumped off our laps. So we were laughing at the fact that they couldn't have their picture taken.
Okay. And that was in Louisville, yes?
Right. That was in the house where we had the raw contact.
Okay. Next picture.
Excuse me. Is that the house that David Wilcock moved into?
No, we left that house in 1983, moving to Atlanta, hoping to get closer to Don's job at that time. He was a pilot for Eastern Airlines, and he had to travel to Atlanta before he could start to work. So we thought we could help him out by moving there. So we moved there, and then we moved to the house that I live in now, which is where David lived with us.
I see. Okay.
And next picture. Oh, that is a beautiful picture of Carla. And I think you can see her innocence and her connection with spirit in that picture. Any comment, Jim?
Yeah, that's what she looked like when we got married.
Right. Next picture. And that's a more good picture.
That's 2008 International UFO Congress and Film Festival in Laughlin, Nevada. She was giving a talk, and I'm not sure what caused her to laugh, but that's her laughing.
Is that the conference that I met you at?
Yeah, that was it, Win. That was the one you came through our window. He was out. It was in a hotel on the first floor. We heard a knock at our window. We opened the curtains, and there was Win right outside the window. So we opened the window and let him in.
I crawled in through the window, huh?
Yeah. I think there's a song like that, isn't there? Came in through the bathroom window.
I crawled in through the window, and I had my guitar with me, right?
That's right.
I had never met Carla, but I had been talking to her, and she had been mentoring me with my Elohim contacts. And I wanted to meet her. So I went to the UFO convention, and there she was. So next, Alfred. That's another one of Jim and Carla, and Carla's got the towel over her eyes. And any comments on this one, Jim?
Well, I'm meditating, and there were 3 tape recorders that were hooked up to her because occasionally 1 or even 2 would fail. So I would meditate and send her love and light and send it through her crown chakra down to her feet, because that's the direction that Ra contacted her, through her crown chakra down to her blue ray throat chakra. So I would send the love and light, and then when I heard the tape click off, I would pause and flip the tape over. That would happen 3 times, and I would continue meditating for the rest of the session.
While you were meditating, were you listening to the session? Could you hear it?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You took it in, yeah. And let's go through another one. And that is Don. Is he next to Carla there?
Well, there's about 3 feet between the bed and his chair. You can't see it because of the perspective here. And I'm over to the right in the corner. This is a small room, an unused bedroom in that house that we lived in, and we decided to use it for the Ra contact. And it was kind of a small room, but it was very comfy and right on the corner of the house, so there's quite a bit of light that came in through 2 different sides.
Okay, and let's go to the next one. There's the one of Don again. And next, and what's going on there, Jim?
Well, I'm combing her hair because Ra sort of complained about how messy it was at one point. And the reason it made a difference is that the hair actually serves as a battery. It helps to hold the contact while the contact is ongoing. And the fact that we had it kind of messed up made a little bit of contact. So I'm being very careful to get her hair combed. So once the hair was combed, then I would take the folded up towel there on the corner of the bed and put it across her eyes and hook up the 3 tape recorders. They were tie-pin mics that were connected to the cover.
Okay, next, Alfred. Now we're adjusting the microphones.
Right.
And I remember the caption on that picture.
At one point, the tape recorders that were sitting on the floor, one of the tape recorders kind of got noisy, and I'm sure that it was being picked up on the other tape recorder. So I took a rug and I put it over the tape recorder, and it just slightly pulled one of those wires on the tie-pin microphone, and Ra had to stop the session and walk the circle of 1. They gave us a ritual called the circle of 1, and we repeated words like, "Why are we here? We seek to discover the law of 1," and so forth. So we had to repeat it because that little pull had jarred her body. And I don't know if you're familiar with the silver cord, but when you leave your body, your spirit is connected to the body by the silver cord. And if you pull that too hard, it's like a rubber band snapping hard against the surface or the origin, and it could cause her a problem with her lungs and with her heart. So we had to re-walk the circle to close that opening that was made.
Okay, next.
That's the scribing. I'm transcribing the session. As soon as the session was over, I went into the office and started transcribing because Don would be outside the office, pacing back and forth, waiting for the next page to get out of the typewriter. He was totally excited every time we had a session. He was usually quite a relaxed, calm, and cool fellow. But when it came to the Ra contact, he was very, very excited. And that's our cat Chocolate Bar that's helping me transcribe.
Yeah. So as I understand it, the law of 1 and the raw material is online now. Where can people access that?
The best place to find it is lawofone.info. A friend of ours in Virginia, Toby Wheelock, has made that a searchable site. You can go to that site and search any topic or any word and find where it's used throughout the sessions. He did a really great job of putting that together.
Does he have the whole books there as well?
He doesn't have the books there. You can go to our website, www.llresearch.org, and get the books, or you can go to Amazon. And if you want to go to our website, that same website, you can download the books and everything we've ever published for free in PDFs.
I did put a link with the Alfred's announcement for downloading book 1 of The Law of One. So if you go to your email, there's a link. Let's see the next one.
Yeah, and just to let you know, in the video description of this video, and if you're looking at this on Facebook, you know, underneath, we'll list all of those links, and it'll be in the article linked to this, so you can go there. Okay, so
I think that was the first. Did we do that one already?
No, that's a different one.
That has a different title.
And this one looks like it has a hamburger above her head, right?
That's an incense holder.
Okay.
No hamburgers allowed in the session.
Okay. You see the 3 microphones for the 3 tape recorders? Did Carla have a predisposition to break tape recorders?
Yeah, electromagnetic equipment and Carla did not get along. If you wanted a tape recorder to work, do not give it to Carla. Somebody could give her a tape recorder that was working before they gave it to her. She'd hold it for a second, give it back, and it wouldn't work again. Oh, and that's probably one of the funniest things that ever happened in a session. She had that problem that something about her tape recorder was malfunctioning, and it was letting off an unusual sound. So Don asked Ra if the sound that was coming from her tape recorder happened to be a negative greeting of some kind. And Ra said, no, it's a malfunctioning tape recorder. When the play button, Ra said, when the play button was depressed, it was connected to the tape and it caused the tape to malfunction. And Don said, it just amazes me that you know all these details. What do? Move in time, space, and inspect the situation, or what? And Ross said, your former assumption is correct. Your latter assumption is unintelligible to us. Or what?
And Terry is as bad as Carla. You see Terry in the upper right-hand corner. Wave, Terry, so they know who you are. Terry is a nightmare with electronics and computers. Let's see the next picture.
Okay, so this is the first of the audios.
What is that called? I think that's the one where Carla, you know, let me just go historically. For about 5 years before Carla died, she was my co-host on our Sunday morning healing call. It was a 2-hour call, and Carla was wonderful. And I was so honored to have her. And in a worldly sense, she was far more accomplished, famous than I was. But she supported my work, and so after she died, I recorded some snippets of her, things that she said, and sometimes she was serious, and sometimes she was kibitzing. But go ahead and play this. I think this is the one where she said what it's like to channel.
Okay, now this is going to be an experiment because I don't know how loud this is going to be. You can always go back to the original.
Okay.
Let's see how it sounds.
I don't think it's working. Nothing, Alfred. Should we give up?
You, oh, okay. Just a second. I'm hearing that loud and clear. You're not hearing it?
No, nothing.
No, I don't hear it
Oh,
either.
Okay, let me try another way. Okay, so let me just go to here. Let me put this back. Okay, so let's try now.
If you're vibrating a little bit at what we're saying.
Can you hear that?
Yes.
Yes?
Okay, that's working.
Okay, so we're going to start that. Let me take this off.
And please listen carefully, because he is really touching on an important thing. So many of you are within inches of remembering who you are, why you came here, and what it is that the Creator and you decided in tandem that you would do in order to be of service, A, have fun, B, and it is fun once you get the hang of it, but whoa, it's tough. So keep listen. Okay, I just wanted to say that.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to go to the next one now.
Okay. This is the one where she talks about how she channels.
Now that I'm quoting Ra, I have to turn the floor over to Carla.
Oh, wait.
Flap.
Wait a minute. That's that. Yeah. There we go. Oops. Let me see. There's that one. And there's this one.
Now that I'm
Well, maybe
If you're vibrating a little bit at what we're saying, please listen carefully, because he is really touching on an important thing. So many of you are within inches of remembering who you are, why you came here, and what it is that the Creator and you decided in tandem that you would do in order to be of service, A, have fun, B, and it is fun once you get the hang of it, but whoa, it's tough. So please listen. Okay, I just wanted to say that.
Now you played the same one over again, you know.
yeah. Now, these are just to finish up this slideshow. These are two slides from a presentation that I made on February 16th, 2018 at a conference in Tijuana, Mexico, on the other side of the Trump wall, putative Trump wall, that has to do with the Mars Maldek nuclear wars. And we discussed this prior to the webinar, because what's very interesting is that the Ra group came up with slightly different interpretations of the facts than this recent book. But what's interesting is that the recent book came out and they deduced that a nuclear war had happened on Mars from various traces of nuclear weapons that have been detected on Mars of a nuclear war. And they dated it at 75,000 years ago, which is within the 70,000 to 75,000 year period that, in fact, the raw material states. Isn't that correct?
That's right.
Yeah, so I'm just going to read this very briefly so that you can see that, you know, those of you who are saying, oh, this is just channeled material. What do you mean? This is just channeled. That's just the asteroids out there. Oh yeah, that's just Mars. I mean, you know, Mars and Venus and all these planets always look bare, you know, of course. Yeah. Dr. John Brandenburg, a plasma physicist working as a consultant at Morningstar Applied Physics LLC, says in his book, Death on Mars, that nuclear isotopes found on the red planet resemble those from hydrogen bombs on Earth. And a Martian civilization apparently perished due to a planet-wide catastrophe of unknown origin. Hydrogen bombs? Nuclear catastrophe? According to conspiracy website Planet X News, this supposed war happened 75,000 years ago and wasn't now. This is another model. In other words, it takes the facts and then posits another model. Supposedly happened 75,000 years ago and was an interplanetary battle that happened between Mars and Maldek, a theorized planet once existing between Mars and Jupiter. The war was between humanoids, which lived on Mars, and reptilian creatures, which occupied Maldek, the website claims. Nuclear isotopes found on Mars, the red planet, quote, resemble those from hydrogen bombs on Earth. While Maldek was completely destroyed, Mars was left uninhabitable and forced the residents of Mars, the red planet, to move to Earth. So in terms of hard science, I guess you can talk about the nuclear isotopes found on Mars and how that's a hypothesis that they resemble hydrogen bombs. And so then you're trying to figure out, so this goes on, quote, the war was nuclear. Mars was seemingly losing, and the destruction of Maldek may have been an option of last resort. The reptilians were fighting to control Mars and to utilize some of its resources, including mineral resources. NASA's Curiosity rover appears to show fossils on Mars. People can go to our Mars Anomaly Research Society, Mars group on Facebook and see all of the surface photographs from the rovers that we have and all of our analysts showing living reptilians on the surface of Mars and the humanoids on living underneath. Extraterrestrials systematically seeded information about the war into human culture by force feeding information into minds of religious prophets. The prophets would then describe these visions in ancient texts. According to Dr. Brandenburg, Earth could suffer a similar fate if we do not learn from the supposed signs of Mars' end. He writes in his book, the discovery of dead civilization on Mars, whose end was apparently catastrophic and due to unknown causes, reinforces our understanding that the cosmos can be a dangerous place and requires a vigorous response from the human race to reduce the probability that we will perish the same way. From War in Heaven by Dr. John Brandenburg, UK Mirror, February 5th, 2018. So I wanted to bring that note. That's in the mainstream media in the UK, February 5th, 2018, based on nuclear isotopes found on Mars. So that's current science, and it's congruent with what is just reported here, has been found in 1981 to 83, verbatim, in the Ra group's channelings, and we're so fortunate here to have persons who were present at that and who are reporting directly on this, who were present at that in the form of Jim McCarty and also Win Free, who are direct eyewitnesses, and we have photographic evidence of that, of these channelings. So here we have both scientific evidence that's reinforced by scientifically derived channeled information with explicit, interdimensional information of an ethical sort. Could you talk a bit about both Win and Jim about how you went about determining that the Ra group was an ethical source as opposed to, sort of darker sorts that are brought in at ritual sacrifices, or conjurings of other demonic forces? Is there a polarity here? I just want to establish kind of a baseline as to ethics, spiritual ethics.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about
okay.
that.
Well, initially, when I first heard about the Ra group, I came from Wilcock, and I studied his channelings, and I was very impressed by the depth of the wisdom. And I started studying the Casey channelings when I made the decision to write the book. And I came about something quite astounding in the Casey channelings. It was like a missing piece of the puzzle that linked the Casey channelings to the record channelings. If Ra, the group soul, was an aspect of it, was talking through Wilcock, then you would guess that the same group soul was talking through Casey. And in the Casey channelings, there was the story of a past life of Edgar Casey in Egypt, approximately 10,000 years ago. His name was Rata, He was doing miracles of healing. He was building temples of healing. And according to the Casey readings, he built the pyramids by levitation. And as I studied the raw material from LL Research, they told the story of connecting with a being in Egypt 10,000 years ago. And they described creating light bodies that people could see. They were in this realm. And they were doing miracles of healing. And they built the pyramids by levitation. Now, the record material, the Law of One material, never talked about Edgar Casey. And the Edgar Casey material never talked about a group soul. But the incidents were so close that, I mean, I remember when I discovered that, it was like, oh my God, these guys are real. The Ra group is real. They're like it was like a cosmic footprint, you know? And that's one of the things that made me write the book, discovering that incident. So if the Ra group was who they say they are, and you know, there's no way to prove that other than to read it and resonate with it. Either it resonates or it doesn't. There's a huge amount of sessions in there. They talk about so many different aspects of the interface between their realm and our realm. And there was always a consistency of wisdom and care and love. And I remember when I was writing the Wilcox book, something very strange happened. In the middle of the night, my printer went off. And it was printing something. And that never happens. But it happened. And I went up, I said, what the hell is it printing? And it was printing a Ra channeling that was going in that book. It's like they were playing with me. They were saying, hi, we're here. And, you know, there were incidents like that that happened that kept me going. Now, another thing that happened was in 2002, I was still in the middle of writing the reincarnation of Edgar Casey. And of course, Daphne was in my life. And now I'm busy having conversations with his voice that says they're the Elohim. And I was cross-referencing all kinds of stuff from the raw material with the Elohim, which Daphne didn't know the answers to the questions, but I kept getting the same answers from my sources. And I was still attempting to validate my sources. And it got very, very crazy for me. Like, I had asked the question, I said, I know I exist in other dimensions. I've had numerous synchronicities in my life. How do I connect with the other dimensions that I know I exist in? And they said, write your dreams down. That day, that night, I took a pad and a pen, and I left a small light on and I was determined to try to write my dreams down and see what happened. So I would wake up in the middle of the night, and it was like I was daydreaming. There was a sentence in my mind, and I wrote it down. Then I'd go back to sleep, and I'd write another sentence down, and another sentence down. And in the morning, I picked up the pad, and I looked at what I had written. And I had a sentence that said, you have to look tall and thin. You're supposed to be the front man. We're not doing this for entertainment. It has a serious purpose. Communication from another dimension, just like Casey. He slept to connect with this dimension. And I kept getting those messages for the next, every time I paid attention to them, I still get them. And when I went back into the channeling, and I asked, I said, where are these dream messages coming from? The answer was Akhenaten. And I said, and Ra? And they said, under the auspices of Ra. And I had studied the Ra material, and I know that Akhenaten was one of the people that the Ra group had been speaking to. And they, as I recall, they said he had to come back and have more incarnations and give up his predisposition to power. Am I right, Jim? Is that what they said?
Right.
Yeah. And so this is going on now, and then I'm studying Akhenaten. I didn't know that.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Can you hear me?
I can hear Jim. We have a phone now that's taken over the middle of the video.
Yeah, the phone was on my screen too, and I clicked it and it went away.
Yeah.
My screen had gone blank.
Yeah. Jim, do you kind of do you want to pick up the narrative here? I sort of like to bring this into the present moment because we seem to be facing a present moment of crisis, and we've been on the air now for 2 hours and 21 minutes, and most webinars end after 2 hours. And so I think that we've gotten across the major points to people now. However, this webinar was majorly synchronistic because the two aggressive nuclear powers on Earth, North Korea led by Kim Il-jung and the United States led by Donald J. Trump, were scheduled to meet in May and 2018, and it looked like, Kim had said, yeah, we're ready to give up. And last night, Donald J. Trump, in an unsettled manner, abruptly canceled the meeting. And so our question is, because it's on the hour, is are we going through a rerun of Maldek and Mars here? And that's a legitimate question because Donald J. Trump has no training in how to conduct nuclear weapons. He didn't even know what the protocols were for conducting diplomacy with North Korea, which is astounding. And he has the sole authority over the nuclear weapons of the United States, which until Russia announced last week through Vladimir Putin were the most powerful weapons on the United States, on Earth. Now, Russia's nuclear weapons are the most powerful, which they have increased precisely because Donald J. Trump has his finger on the button. Now, I want to get into, let's cut to the chase, because we're bringing up the issues of what we're bringing up the issues of what the Raw group warned about in 1980 and 83, and you were the person that transcribed those readings. Could you tell, do you have those readings handy? Could you read those now?
What specific readings were you talking about?
What the Raw reading said about what happened to those souls and what actually happens to you during a nuclear war. Do you have the actual readings?
Well, I can't get to them because they're in my computer here. If I try to get to them, I'll lose you.
Okay.
But I can.
Jim?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
I probably, you're only seeing half my head now. Okay. So I just went to lawof1.info and I searched Maldek and I can read what came up.
Okay, could you?
Yeah. Okay. Question. When Maldek was destroyed, did all of the people of Maldek have the problem? Or were some advanced enough to transfer to other planets? Ra. In the occurrence of planetary dissolution, none escaped, for this is an action which redounds to the social memory complex of the planetary complex itself. None escaped this knot or tangle. Question. You said yesterday that Maldek was destroyed due to warfare. If Maldek hadn't destroyed itself due to warfare, would it have become a planet that evolved with self-service? And would the entities have increased in density, gone on to say the fourth, fifth density, in the negative sense, or the sense of self-service? And just to make a little clarification here, Ra talks about evolution and that the both negative and the positive can evolve into higher dimensions. The negative needs a 95% dedication of service to self, and the positive needs a 51% dedication to service to others, at least to go from third density to fourth density. And when you get to the very
Oh boy.
Did you mute me, Alfred?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Was there a reason you muted me?
I just didn't know that you were calling user 5.
I see.
There's see, right now the television audience is seeing a big phone, round phone symbol. It's not seeing any of the panel because 12 of the call-in people have called in as panelists and not attendees. And that's part of the chaos. Chaos has happened in this webinar. And so a lot of the people here are probably Maldekians. So you,
including us.
you're unsettled fools still. You just can't like do everything like orderly. Okay, so welcome. And so that I muted you is part of your Maldekian fate. Well, if Trump and Kim are Maldekians, you ain't gonna blow up Earth. I tell you that. The way you blew up Maldek and Mars, I tell you that. And just because you're staging this thing, we're calling you out. Okay. So you go ahead and read this stuff. And here we are, 2 hours and 30 minutes into the seminar, and you're only getting around now to reading what Ross said about Maldek when you should have read it at the beginning. Okay? So we're doing
Well, you know what?
all of this is backwards. And so you've given me a huge editing task. Okay? I'm just putting you on notice here because I'm an Earthian from who knows where, but I'm trying to bring order here, order in the court. So continue. You're now tasked with reading.
You're trying to be a judge.
Yeah, you're now tasked with reading everything reasonable. I don't even know how much there is. What Ross says about Maldek, so we can get a real feel for it. Everything has been hearsay until now. Go ahead.
Okay, but we did build the credibility for Ra.
Yeah.
So
okay.
That way, if you read this, if you put Ra down somebody's throat too quickly, they say, "I don't believe in channeling."
Okay. Okay. Listen.
Where did that come from?
We've been here for 2.5 hours, and we have 9.5 more hours more to go. So there you go.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay. Can we get to dinner?
Hey, people can do what they want.
Okay. The planetary, the question was, what if Maldek hadn't destroyed itself due to warfare, would it have become a planet that evolved with self-service? And would the entities have increased the density, going on to fourth and fifth density in the negative sense? And supposedly, according to Ra, there are service to self planets in the higher realms. Okay? Ra. The planetary social memory complex, Maldek, had in common with your own sphere the situation of a mixture of energy direction. Thus, it, though unknown, would most probably have been a mixed harvest. A few moving to fourth density, a few moving towards fourth density in service to self, and the great majority repeating third density. This is approximate due to the fact that parallel possibility-probability vortices cease when action occurs and new probability-possibility vortices are begun. Now, I don't know, one of the things about the raw material, for people that are reading it the first time, some of the language is hard to understand. They're talking about a planet that would go through its graduation phase, its dimensional shift phase, which our planet is going through right now. And you can graduate in negative, and you can graduate in positive. And a few moving to fourth density, a few moving towards fourth density in service to self, and the majority of the planet repeating third density. And then they say the possibility-probability vortices cease when action occurs. And the action is, at that moment, people have moved into another realm, and there's no more possibility. See, right now, there's all kinds of possibilities. There's a possibility vortex that a huge amount of people will graduate in this realm. And there's another one that not many will graduate. There's another one that most of the people will repeat this realm. And another one is we blow each other up, blow ourselves up, okay? I'll move on to the next question. Thanks. Is all of the Earth's population then human population of the Earth? Are all of them originally from Maldek? I am Ra. This is a new line of questioning and deserves a place of its own. The ones who were harvested to your sphere from the sphere known before its dissolution as other names, but to your people as Maldek, incarnated many within your Earth's surface rather than upon it. The population of your planet contains many various groups harvested from other second dimension and cycled third dimension spheres. You are not all one race or background of beginning. The experience you share is unique to this time and space. Then, no incarnation occurred before this master 75,000-year cycle of Maldek entities, correct? Excuse me, I'm going to cough in just a moment. This is correct. In the sense of incarnation in third density time-space, I would like to point out that Ra is using the word harvest to talk about the idea of graduation. It's the word that was used in the New Testament to talk about graduation, harvest. And another clue that Ra was connected to the Jesus incident. For me, question, you said that entities from Maldek might go to it. Some might go to fourth density negative. Are there people who go out of our present third density to places in the universe and serve, which are fourth density self-service or negative type planets? Ra, your question is unclear. Please restate. Question. I think it would clarify things for us to go back to the time just before the transfer of souls from Maldek. See how the law of one operated with respect to this transfer and why this was necessary. What happened to Maldek, or the people on Maldek, to cause them to lose their planet? How long ago did this occur? Ra. The peoples of Maldek had a civilization somewhat similar to that of the societal complex known to you as Atlantis, in that it gained much technological information and used it without care for the preservation of their sphere, following to a majority extent the complex of thought, ideas, and actions which you may associate with your so-called negative polarity or service to self. This was, however, for the most part, couched in a sincere belief structure which seemed to the perception of the mind-body complexes of this sphere to be positive and of service to others. The devastation that racked their biosphere and caused its disintegration resulted from what you call war. The escalation went to the furthest extent of the technology this social complex had at its disposal in the space-time present of the then time. The time was approximately 705,000 of your years ago. The cycles had begun much earlier upon this sphere due to its relative ability to support the first dimensional life forms at an earlier point in the space-time continuum of your solar system. These entities were so traumatized by this occurrence that they were in what you may call a social complex knot or tangle of fear. Some of your time passed. No one could reach them. No beings could aid them. Now, you know, as I read this, I realize that the raw, you know, it's hard to grasp all of this the first time you read it. If I was giving them a simple translation, it's because I've studied this stuff, it was indicating that they were operating out of service to self, but they really thought they were acting for the benefit of all. It would be like in our realm, where people think it's in the highest benefit to reduce the population, if they actually believe that, and that they're actually being very service to self, but they think they're doing something positive, and they proceed forward until the SHIT hits the fan. And apparently the escalation went to the I'm reading this again, went to the furthest extent of the technology this social complex had at its disposal. Now, social complex is their word for the entire population of the planet. It's a social complex. And from their point of view, they don't necessarily see separate beings. They see the conglomeration of all the beings as one complex. So, moving on, approximately 600,000 of your years ago, the then existing members of the Confederation were able to deploy a social memory complex and untie the knot of fear. The entities were then able to recall that they were conscious. So that's 105,000 years that they were unconscious. This awareness brought them to the point upon what you would call the lower astral planes, where they could be nurtured until each mind-body spirit complex was able finally to be healed of this trauma, to the extent that each entity was able to examine the distortions it had experienced in the previous life illusion complex. After this experience of learned teaching, the group decision was to place upon itself a type of what you may call karma alleviation. For this purpose, they came into our incarnation within your planetary sphere in what were not acceptable human forms. This, then, they have been experiencing until the distortions of destruction are replaced by distortions toward the desire for a less distorted vision of service to others. Since this was the conscious decision of the great majority of those beings in the Maldek experience, the transition to this planet began approximately 500,000 of your years ago, and the type of body complex available at that time was used. Question: And have any of the Maldekian entities transformed now? Are they now still second density, or are they forming some third density planet now? And he says second density because animals are considered second densities. And it sounds like they had, they called them in less, they were not acceptable human forms, okay? Which could mean the Bigfoot. And have any of the Maldek entities transformed? The consciousness of these entities has always been third density. The alleviation mechanism was designed by the placement of this consciousness in second dimensional physical chemical complexes, which are not able to be dexterous or manipulative to the extent which is appropriate to the workings of the third density distortions of the mind complex. Question: when did the first call occur and how did it occur? The first calling was approximately 46,000 of your years ago. The calling was those of Maldek. Those entities were aware of their need for rectifying the consequences of their action and were in some confusion in an incarnate state as to the circumstances of their incarnation. The unconscious being aware, the conscious being quite confused. This created a calling, and the Confederation sent love and light to these entities. Now, Jim, I want to ask you here. Are you there? Can you hear me? Jim. Alfred.
Yeah. Jim has his audio muted because he's probably listening to you, but may not want his sound to leak in because we have a permanent phone signal here.
Okay.
You know, this whole thing is just like crazy. But
I'm unmuted now. I didn't know I was muted.
Oh, well, there you go.
Okay.
Okay.
Jim, I just wanted to ask you. I read the first calling. Was this when the tangled mass is getting untangled, and now they're calling for help? What do you mean by the first calling?
That was when they were incarnated in the second density bodies, the Bigfoot bodies. They gave out a calling for assistance because unconsciously they knew the situation that they had created, but consciously they were not aware of it. So unconsciously is where the calling came from.
I see. And so that was 46,000 years ago.
Right.
But they had already been here hundreds of thousands of years, yes?
Right.
In the Bigfoot position, okay? And the Bigfoot were living underground, yes?
Yes.
Seems to indicate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wynn, could you pull down the your screen? We're looking at the upper thing. Thanks.
Is that better?
Yeah.
You know what the problem is, Alfred? My camera is in my computer.
Yeah.
And I open my computer to read this stuff, and then I lose track of where it's focused. Okay.
I understand. I'm just trying to keep things nice for the.
No, keeping nice. Okay, there we go. Okay. Is that okay? So I have to set it by guessing. Okay. Okay, so then questionnaire, that's what I thought you'd say. Well, now I get back to the business at hand of doing the book. I want, as we cover this early part of the 75,000 year cycle, I would like to go back a little bit, quite some distance, perhaps before the 75,000-year cycle occurred, and take one more look at the transfer of entities from Maldek to clear up this point. I'd like to check the time that you gave us, because we had some distortions in numbers back in the early part of this. And I'm afraid this might be distorted. The entities from Maldek were transferred how many years ago? Well, the entities of which you speak underwent several transitions, the first occurring 500,000 of your years, approximately in your past, as you measure time. At this time, the entities were transformed into a knot. This continued for what you would call eons of your time. Those aiding them were repeatedly unable to reach them. At a period approximately 200,000 years in your past, as you measure time, a Confederate entity was able to begin to relax this knot from which none had escaped during planetary annihilation. These entities then were transformed again into the inner or time-space dimensions and underwent a lengthy process of healing. When this was accomplished, these entities were then able to determine the appropriate movement, shall we say, in order to set up conditions for alleviation of the consequence of their actions. At a time 46,000 of your years in your past, this being approximate, these entities chose incarnation within the planetary sphere. And I think that means underground. Question. Both. At one time, and I'm not sure, sometimes these things are not in complete order. In this, it's a search for all the raw material for the word Maldek. So this one just starts out both. So let's see if we can figure out what that means. At one time space, in what is your past, there was a population of third density beings upon a planet which dwelt within your solar system. There are various names by which this planet had been named, most commonly called Maldek. These entities, destroying their planetary sphere, thus were forced to find room for themselves upon this third density, which is the only one in the solar system of their time-space present, which was hospitable and capable of offering the lessons necessary to decrease their mind-body-spirit distortions with respect to the law of one. Excuse me, just to clarify, question. Could you tell me approximately how many total mind-body-spirit complexes were transferred to Earth at the beginning of this last 75,000 year period? Ra. The transfer, as you call it, has been gradual. Over 2 billion souls are those of Maldek, which have successfully made the transition. Approximately 1.9 billion souls have, from many portions of the creation, entered into this experience at various times. The remainder are those who have experienced the first two cycles upon this sphere, or have come in at some point as wanderers, some wanderers having been in this sphere for many thousands of years, others coming far more recently. And what are they saying here? 1.9 billion souls have entered into the experience in this realm. Question. Thank you. Backtracking just a little bit today, I would like to know if the reason the nuclear energy was brought into this density 40 or so years ago had anything to do with giving the entities that were here who had caused the destruction of Maldek another chance to use nuclear energy peacefully rather than destructively. Is this correct? Ra, this is incorrect, and that it places the cart before the horse, as your people say. The desire for this type of information attracted this data to your people. It was not given for a reason from outside influences. Rather, it was desired by your peoples. From this point forward, your reasoning is correct in that entities had desired the second chance which you mentioned. Question. Then our present race is formed of a few who originally came from Maldek, and quite a few who came from Mars. Are there entities from other places? Ra. There are entities experiencing your time-space continuum who have originated from many, many places, as you would call them, into creation. Terry, are you making a lot of noise? For when there is a cycle change, those who must repeat then find a planetary sphere appropriate for this repetition. It is somewhat unusual for a planetary mind-body-spirit complex to contain those from many, many various locations. But this explains much, for you see, you are experiencing the third dimensional occurrences with a large number of those who must repeat the cycle. The orientation, thus, has been difficult to unify, even with the aid of many of your teachers and learners. Question. Is there any particular race of people on our planet who were incarnated here from the second density? Ra. There are no second density consciousness complexes here on your sphere at this time. However, there are two races which use the second density form. One is in the entities of the planetary sphere you call Maldek. These entities are working their understanding complexes through a series of what you would call karmic restitutions. They dwell within your deeper underground passageways and are known to you as Bigfoot. The other race is that being offered a dwelling in this density by guardians who wish to give the mind-body-spirit complexes of those who are of this density at this time appropriately engineered physical vehicles, as you would call these chemical complexes, in the event that there is what you would call nuclear war. Jim? Jim, are you there?
Yeah, when?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention what they're doing. I believe what they're saying there is they're engineering a body that can survive a nuclear war. Okay. That's what I recall. I wanted to ask Jim to confirm that. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
That's correct, right?
Right.
But that's not Bigfoot, right? That's other than Bigfoot.
Right. That's there are actually 3 different types of Bigfoot, and that's the second one.
Okay. Question. There seems to have been created by this logos, to me anyway, a large percentage of entities whose distortion was towards warfare, in that we had the Maldek and the Mars experience, and now Earth. It seems that Venus was the exception to what we could almost call the role of warfare. Is this correct? And was this envisioned and planned into the construction of the archetypal mind, possibly not with respect particularly to warfare, as we have experienced it, but to the extreme action to polarization in consciousness? Ra, it is correct that the Logos designed its experiment to attempt to achieve the greatest possible opportunities for polarization in third density. It is incorrect that warfare of the type specific to your experience was planned by the Logos. This form of expression of hostility is an interesting result, which is apparently concomitant with the tool-making ability. The choice of the Logos to use the light form with the grasping thumbs is the decision to which this type of warfare may be traced. Jim, would you explain the word Logos?
Well, it has a number of different meanings. The Logos is, in the Bible, considered the Word. And when the Word was with God, this talks about when Ra was talking about the nature of creation, that the Creator made various logoi, or Logos entities, that we see as stars or suns that co-created the universes or the galaxies that they inhabited. So each Logos would be a creator. It's the form of expression of love. It's the power of love to create. So our sun is a Logos. Every sun or star you see in the sky is a Logos entity. And they choose the different kinds of third density forms or second density forms to invest with life.
That's exactly what we learned in the Elohim material, where they talked about, they set original template, and then under the template would create forms underneath it. And each form was a creator creating the rules of engagement of its particular sphere of influence.
Right.
Okay. So in other words, the sun is a Logos, and it's created the engagement of the solar system and the planets, so to speak.
Right.
But the planets each would probably have their own individual choice in the way they created their own engagements with the beings that would be coming in to that planet.
Yeah, that's right.
I would think. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so Ra. There were 3 basic divisions of origin of these entities. First and primarily, those of the planetary sphere you call Maldek, having become able to take up third density once again, were gradually loosed from self-imposed limitations of form. Secondly, there were those of other third density entrants or neophytes whose vibratory patterns matched the terrain experiential nexus. Okay, could you explain that to me, Jim? What's the terrain experiential nexus? Okay, we'll come to that later. These then filtered in through incarnative processes. Thirdly, in the past approximately 200 of your years, you have experienced much visiting of the wanderers. It may be noted that all possible opportunities for incarnation are being taken at this time due to your harvesting process and the opportunities which this offers. And you know what? I think that's it. Wait a second. This shows. Let me see if there's any more here. Well, I think we covered all the stuff on Maldek here. And Jim, is there anything you want to add to this?
Well, I guess I'd try to give an overview that although what we're facing with possible nuclear war is a very serious matter, one of the things we need to remember is that what we can do about that ourselves is to open our hearts as wide as we can in love, so that that becomes our response to whatever's going on in the world around us. Because we are all one being, if we can generate love within our own hearts for those around us in our little sphere of influence, this is felt by everybody on the planet. It positively affects everybody because, as Ross said, there is love in every moment and in every person. And when you generate love yourself, you cause a resonance to set up. And this resonance can be enhanced by everybody else, or however many can, making that their response to whatever's going on around them. Sometimes it's a difficult situation, but we're here to do these kinds of difficult learnings because this is how we all grow spiritually. This is how we progress, because what you learn easily is easily forgotten. What is hard remains in your total being for the rest of your incarnations. So we need to be learning how to love each other and not worry so much about negativity. We need to do what we can there, but we need to focus primarily on opening our hearts in love. That's basically my message. And I'm going to have to head out here pretty quick, guys, because I've got a bunch of other stuff to do. I didn't know this was going to be so long tonight. This is a night time change. I've got water in my basement that I need to deal with and some other things. So
yeah, sure.
Anything else that I could respond to before I have to head out?
Well, Wynn, do you want to kind of sum up here also?
Well, I would want to say that in my little reality, I spent a long time wondering, what can I do? And I remember thinking, oh my God, this is what everyone wants to know. And it isn't. And let me get my head down. And then a year ago, we started doing whole planet healing. And it's like a seed group. We're actually doing on that call what Jim was talking about. We are creating a resonant, loving frequency with a small group of people. And I look at it like a seed group. And it's setting an example that if enough people came into it, and it's got momentum, it might change. It would change certain probability vortices. You know, we have two group souls. One is the Ra group. One is the Elohim group. They both want connection with beings in this realm, energetic connections. And we are offering that on Whole Planet Healing. And it's something that I wanted to encourage everyone who's listening to at least come one time or a few times and see if you pick it up. We read the materials from the group souls. We feel their energies on the calls. And thus far, it is the only actionable, I'm sure there's other actionable things, but the only actionable thing that I could come up with that I could actually do. And my sources have said, you've got to build positive energy outside of the negative. They have constantly reiterated the idea that it's not in best interests to polarize with the negative, to find, you know, to be against. I mean, it's good to know about them. It's good to have discernment, but they're too powerful. You can't beat them in the game of power. And if you get even the least bit close, they will kill you. They do kill people all the time. So you have to build parallel structures outside of the negative, holding the love light of the highest vibration into this realm. And if enough people do that, it could create interventions that would prevent worst case scenarios. So that's, I think, what I would say. You know, Terry has been very patiently quiet here. Are you there, Terry? Are you muted? I don't hear you, Terry. Here we go. I think you're on now. Say, no, you're off. Alpha, do you have her muted? Or
I'm trying to unmute her.
Oh, we had her for a moment. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, Terry, we hear you.
Yes, this is a topic that is dear to my heart, as I have done exploration into the background on the damage that nuclear explosions do to the soul. And Carla brought through, the Ra group brought through the exact thing that happens. It destroys their energy body, their light body. It takes it apart, and they have no means to operate. It takes them a long time, and people working with them, like the Ra group, for them to even come around out of their unconscious state. So I am so glad to have you put this on so people can begin to get a glimpse of what happens.
Thank you so much. You know, we're obviously going to break in just a minute or two because Jim has to go. And this is probably the longest webinar that we've had on record. And I would like to make two invitations. One is to, first of all, thank everyone here. Jim, Wynn, Terry, and all of the patient callers. Sorry, those who got bumped. We finally figured out who the round phone that's taken up all the video space. It's the phone, it's Wynn Free's phone. So instead of seeing Wynn and Jim and Terry and Alfred, you're seeing Wynn's phone. So at the next one, Wynn, you're going to have to figure out how to call in on your video, because otherwise you're seeing people aren't seeing you at all. They're just seeing a round symbol for your phone. But anyway,
You know, I called in early and I tested it.
Hold on. Let me get out my invitations.
Okay.
I've had enough of you Maldekians. Okay, hold on. The first invitation goes out to Terry Brown and Winfrey. And I would like to invite you to a future webinar. We can talk about the date and all the details. And that will be to consult with the soul groups that you have direct contact with, and with all the background that you have, to address the situation. And that is that now we have 2 nuclear leaders, actually 3, because Vladimir Putin's there, and actually 4 because the Chinese are there, and all of them walking around with these big nuclear weapon sticks, and 2 of them are really aggressive because you can't even get them in the same room. And Vladimir Putin, 2 weeks ago, he held a press conference. He said, yeah, we won. We can obliterate anybody on Earth, so that's where those guys are. Hey, guess what, guys? We all know that you blew up Maldek. We all know that you blew up Mars, okay? Vlad, Putin, President Xi, President Trump, and Kim, we all know that your souls blew up Maldek, blew up Mars, and we're not going to let you blow up Earth, okay? We're exopoliticians. We're hip to it. Boom. You can't use the reincarnation scam to fool us. Okay, so I'd like to invite Terry and Wynn here to do a webinar that will go directly in. Today we studied the past. Okay, now we're going to study the present and the future, and directly talk to Source and do our best thing. So I really would be honored, and I'm sure that our audiences will greatly appreciate that. And we will be in touch with Wynn and Terry to schedule that. And the second invitation will be to Wynn and to Jim. There again, likewise, we would like to study the same questions, drawing on the expertise of Jim and Wynn on the Ra group soul readings, and going in depth into what we just heard. Maybe we look up a couple more terms like soul and Ra, soul and Mars and stuff like that, and really get into the readings and, begin to emphasize that. We're going to be launching over this next week or 2 an online learning facility called Omniversity. We had the discovery. The Omniverse was discovered in 2014, Universe, Multiverse, Omniverse. And now we find that universities are blocking any study of the multidimensional topics that we discuss here. And so we now developed the Omniversity so that we can study multidimensional topics, because universities only study time, energy, and matter. And they won't go to interdimensional subjects. And so that's why we're launching the Omniversity with faculty and courses and all of that. And so please stay tuned. And the Law of One should be taught at Omniversity and with faculty members and proper courses. So maybe this is the beginning of a proper course on the Law of One at Omniversity. So this is just a conversation in progress. And maybe I did call Jim, Professor Jim, for a reason. Maybe it's just the opening of a conversation here, and Professor Wynn and Professor Terry, etc. So thank you very, very much all. Win, please tell us how people can get in touch with you and your work.
Well, first of all, I want to repeat again that all of the material about these group souls is incredibly valuable. As they have said, as you study us, we study you. As you study their material, you'll actually, many people feel energies coming into their space. They have the ability to move energy into your space. Terry knows, she's had pictures of me where I'm surrounded in pink light. And they say it's them. I know it's them. And some of you may have felt energy during this call at various times. When you start feeling energy, you start being in the position to send intentions through that energy and have more ability to regroup this realm. The Elohim describe their abilities. They say when we come in, it's like spraying WD-40 on a matrix. They talk about the matrices having stuck geometries. To them, we are in a geometrical field, and we are constantly recreating the field by our intentions and the intentions of the people around us. And that geometrically it gets stuck. They can unstick things, but we have to ask. We have to get used to how it works. That creates the quality of grace. And with grace comes miracles. Even the ability to stop, they say they have the ability to stop a nuclear weapon from going off. So every day, we are doing whole planet healing and creating a venue. And it's real. It's not imaginary. It's not based on faith. You come to the call for a while and you get it. You say, oh my God, they're really on the line. I can feel them. And then we don't channel on that, but we channel other times and they confirm they're on the line. So this interface between the higher dimensional realms that has the ability to create miracles in this realm is incredibly important, and that we are making it available for free to show up every night at 7 o'clock. You'll see at the bottom of Alfred's page a link, but you can just remember this: wholeplanhealing.com. This is not a normal New Age healing. This is an interface with the Ra group and the Elohim group directly. We are directly interfaced with them. We talk to them all the time, and take advantage of this. And Alfred, I know you are working so hard to make a change in this realm, and I feel your passion, and I am honored to be associated with you.
Well, I am so honored to be associated with you and all of you, and my whole experience and vision was expanded tremendously today in this webinar, and I feel as though I understand the solar system, SOLAR system, and the soul system, SOUL system. Isn't it interesting that we have a soul system, SOUL system, in our solar system, SOLAR system? And so we have to get our soul system back in balance in our solar system, and that's what we need to do. And so I affirm that, and we're going to save our souls in our solar system, coming out of that. And that's my affirmation and our affirmation coming out of this. And, you know, we're going to put things back in order and in harmony and bring everything into healing and, you know, bring it back up to specs. And no more Maldeks, no more Mars, verdant Earth, Gaia, loving Mother, and Earth vibes. Thank you all, and until we meet again. Thank you so much.
Love you all.